Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and this is going to be a strange one. This is a very odd one because we're going to look at a photograph released by the Education Secretary Gavin Williamson on the day he U-turned over the exam grades fiasco, and there is an extremely interesting feature of it. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news in politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So in order to go through this adequately, I need to point out a few things. And to begin with, it's going to seem a little bit vague and woolly, but it is going to come on to a serious point that I have to go through in stages. Now, this is the photograph that was released by Gavin Williamson. It is the Education Secretary apparently at his desk. But it's a little odd. In fact, it's very odd. And I'm going to point out a few features to begin with. So first of all, obviously, you've got the Union flag behind him there for whatever reason. First odd point though. I mean, the desk is very, very large for a start. It's not like a normal writing desk. This is the sort of desk you'd get a lot of people around. It's a conference desk. That's what I think it's used. I think that's where he holds meetings with senior aides and maybe junior ministers as well. I don't think it's his actual desk. But there's a few things here. So first of all, we look at the cup. The cup is pristine. Not only is there nothing in that cup right now, I don't think there's ever been anything in that cup. It's white and it's absolutely spotless. And also, it's out of comfortable reach and the handle is pointed away from him. Then you've got the phone to his left, also out of comfortable reach. As other people have noted, you don't have a computer there, not even a laptop. Again, I don't think that's his desk. I think that's a conference desk that's been made to look like his desk. You look at all these things on it, it doesn't look like the desk of a busy executive, does it? But that's not the important feature. I just need to sort of set the scene that this does not look like a working desk to point out the feature of real interest. Because in the foreground, there's a whip. A whip! Underneath that orange book, that is a whip. Now, if it were if this actually looked like his desk, if that's what it actually looks like, then if we saw something like the whip, people would just poke fun at it, wouldn't they? They'd go, what's all that about, Gavin? You seem to have a whip there. Did the dominatrix leave it on her last visit? You naughty Tory. No. Because if you take the view, as I do, that this has been staged, everything in this photo is staged, it's not his normal working desk, then that means every single item has been placed very carefully. That means that whip is there for a reason. And that means the orange book is on top of it for a reason. And someone came up with a very interesting theory to explain this. And he called into LBC, the James O'Brien show. Now, for those who don't know, James O'Brien is a rather better known political commentator than I am. Very well known, in fact. Very expert at taking down ridiculous political arguments. He is highly skilled at trashing Brexit supporters and more recently people who are supporting this Boris Johnson government. And this caller had an interesting notion that it has to be said, even James O'Brien said, under normal circumstances, I'd be accusing you of wearing a tinfoil hat because it sounds ridiculous. But he didn't think it was. I don't think it is. I think it's the whip. What's the whip about? So Gavin Williamson used to be the chief whip under Theresa May. Now, for those who don't know, the chief whip is an MP very close to the Prime Minister or the leader of the party, in this case the Prime Minister, whose role is party discipline. It's their job to make sure MPs behave themselves. Now, under normal circumstances, what that means is telling them how to vote on a particular motion. So motions come up when Parliament's in session and MPs vote on them. The chief whip is in charge of making sure MPs know which way to vote. Now, in the normal run of affairs, it's as simple as that. You just tell them which door to go through. Sometimes there are unpopular motions, or there may be policies that the party have that a lot of their MPs are not going to get on board with, in which case they crack the whip. It's their job to make sure those MPs vote the way the leadership wants to, regardless of their own personal feelings, by hook or by crook, by persuasion or by threats. But party discipline isn't just a matter of getting them to vote the right way. It is also a matter of protecting the Prime Minister, or as the leader of the party, but as I say, in this particular case, the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson. At the time, it would have been Theresa May, of course. And the Chief Whip, therefore, has to make sure that they are both defender of the leader as well as assassin, because they are not of the leader, but of those who would seek to stab them in the back. They are there to break up rebellions. As a result, the Chief Whip involves him or herself with every bit of intrigue going on within the parliamentary party, whether it be amongst the senior members of the party or amongst groups of backbenchers. Their job is to involve themselves in every bit of intrigue to stamp out any threats to the leadership. And if they are not doing that, then they are not doing their job. Now, what this means is that the Chief Whip gets to know about all the dirty dealings going on within the parliamentary party. And when that parliamentary party happens to be the Conservative parliamentary party, that's an awful lot of dirty dealings. And this caller to LBC suggested that the whip and the orange book on top of it was a veiled threat. This is a threat to anyone who might push for his resignation. Now, it could be a threat. The caller, I think, seemed to be suggesting it was, I may have got this wrong, seemed to be suggesting it might have been a threat to very senior Tories. I'm not sure it was. If anything, I think it was a threat towards the backbench MPs who may be putting on pressure on Boris Johnson to force Gavin Williamson to resign. Now, it has the air of plausibility about it, and I'll just go through why that might be. Now, there is one major argument against it that I can see as well, which I'll also explain. So, the orange book on top of the whip has to have also been carefully placed. Obviously, I don't recognise it. I can't imagine members of the general public would recognise it. But it's not for us to recognise. It's for Tory MPs to recognise. I strongly suspect that this is the book he used as Chief Whip. Now, obviously, as Chief Whip, a lot of time, MPs will go to him or he will go to them and he will have off-the-record discussions with them. And notes will be taken. It could well be that this is his notebook. This could be him saying, if you force me out, I can make your life really, really uncomfortable. You don't want to do that. And you look at it and you think, this really is plausible, isn't it? Isn't it? Because this has clearly been staged. The whip is there. And even, let's say, even if you just think, Phil, look, it still could be his working desk. He might just be a bit eccentric. Okay, fine. It's still carefully presented. This photo is carefully presented. For a start, why did he even need to release a photo of him at his desk to announce the U-turn anyway? He didn't. It's whatever you may think about whether this is his desk or not for actually working on. This has been a photo opportunity that he has instigated. There isn't much in the photograph. There is not very much in the photograph, but the whip is prominently displayed in the photograph. Now, if you were going to carefully arrange a photograph for whatever reason, the whip is not there by accident. It's there deliberately. He was the Chief Whip. It has to be an allusion to that. The book on top of it has to be related to that. It has to be something that is recognisable by those for whom this is a message. So from that point of view, it's completely plausible and also quite disgraceful, because this is an education secretary. In fact, it's a secretary of state, doesn't matter which department, who is keeping his position by threats, by blackmail. This is him blackmailing Conservative MPs unknown. We don't know who. Now, I did say there is something that makes me question this, as compelling as it is. And that is that we also have to remember Gavin Williamson was sacked as Defence Secretary under Theresa May. He was accused of something very, very naughty, which I wasn't convinced at the time there was any proof of, I have to say. And the question I would ask myself is this. If he has the goods on people and is willing to use them in order to keep his position, why didn't he use it then? Or did he have rather more loyalty to Theresa May than he did to Boris Johnson? Was he not willing to rock the boat when Theresa May was leader and therefore willing to sacrifice his reputation for her for whatever reason? And is it that he's not willing to make that same sacrifice for Boris Johnson's government? Because that's the only way I can see my way around this. But isn't it interesting? Isn't it interesting? But there we go anyway. Those are, well, not just my thoughts. Those are the thoughts of people discussing this. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I will see you later.